That's interesting. Might as well check it out.
For starters, we seem to be following this sorry mess of a guy around, and by the looks of things, he's another one of those otaku-type characters.
You know, this kind.
Basically a meme that Will came across.
Yeah, that's pretty much the genesis of why we're doing this.
So what did you learn, Will?
I learned that the IMDb score
Hi there, my name is Brian Smith, and I'm what you
Last
might
Jedi
call an
is
otaku.
actually lower.
I like to watch anime and read manga from time to time. It's something that I got hooked on in high school and just never seemed to grow out of. Thing is, I'm not one of those shut-ins you hear about on the news from time to time. I have a job that I do well in, I go hang out with friends, and other normal stuff. In all honesty, I tend to keep the anime stuff a secret. Just by looking at me, you would never guess that I'm an otaku.
Yeah, that.
This one seems to go by the name Iwatani Naofumi, and just as luck would have it, he manages to find the one book in the light novel section of a library that magically gets him transported to another world.
You see, this is what we call an isekai anime, or trapped in another world. Shows like this have been around for a long time, with the first one that I remember watching being Digimon way back in the 90s. But in recent years, they've been growing in popularity due to shows like Sword Art Online and Konosuba hitting the scene.
Once in this brand new world, it doesn't take long for us, or him for that matter, to realize that even in this world where no one knows who he is still a bona fide loser, and all because he was unlucky enough to be selected as the shield hero.
See, the shield hero is basically the worst of the worst when it comes to this world, the absolute bottom of the barrel. You know how in PE there's always that one kid who always gets picked last for every event? Well, the shield hero would be even lower than him. At least that kid gets to play around with other people. The shield hero would be in the corner reading a book doing his own thing. I mean, look.
Even the king is ignoring him. You know, the guy who ordered that he be summoned to this world?
Man, talk about being a royal prick.
So it turns out there are 4 types of heroes. You've got the sword hero, spear hero, bow hero, and shield hero, and it's up to these 4 to fight off the waves of catastrophe. In order to do that, however, they have to go out and grind to level up their base abilities so they can even stand a chance to fight off the waves. In order to help out our heroes, the king gathered a group of brave warriors to aid them on their quest, and this is where Naofumi's status as shield hero really starts to hurt him. Apparently, someone was eavesdropping on the hero's conversation the night before, allowing for a rumor to spread that Naofumi knew next to nothing about the world he was in, so when the time comes for party members to pick their leader, absolutely no one is willing to go with him.
We now have a main character who is shocked when he realizes that no one wants to go with him. You know, I don't know about you, but this seems awfully familiar. It's the no one cares about you cliche, normally used for dramatic effect and a quick and easy way to get you on the side of the protagonist. It's cheap, but it's effective. Hey, look at that! At least someone's willing to tag along with him.
Wait, what? Oh.
Okay, now we get to one of the controversial aspects of the show, and it's a major one because this event is going to dictate how Naofumi views the world from this point forward. Now, I personally don't have a problem with it, and I think it's been blown out of proportion. Now, I've heard many complaints about this scene in particular, but the main one that I've heard is that it paints every woman as underhanded and untrustworthy. And you know what? I disagree.
You see this person? Yeah, this person right here. It paints her as an ass. It only paints her as an ass. It fully depicts her as an underhanded, attention-seeking, untrustworthy, manipulative human piece of garbage. And this guy's a bitch. Because of the false accusations, Naofumi is left truly and completely alone. The utter shock of coming to the realization that there is no one who cares for him, and no one he can trust, hits him so hard that he stops being able to even taste food. And this leads us to the other controversial aspect of the show: slavery. Naofumi finds himself in a rough spot at this point. Due to the nature of his weapon, he is unable to attack and can only defend, so he needs capable comrades who can fight for him. However, because he was accused of such an awful and heinous crime that everyone believes, he can't trust anyone half as far as he can throw them, so he does the only thing he can do in lieu of this terrible situation.
The detractors of this show would also have you believe that this is a form of slavery apologism, to which I also call bullshit. From my understanding of the term, a slavery apologist is a person or group of people who believes that slavery was good or even beneficial to the enslaved person or persons. Now, let's see if any of this pans out, shall we?
Let's start with the shop itself. The environment is very dark and drab. The only source of light seems to be coming from the lanterns on the ground that have all been placed next to cages, and all the while very dark and sinister music is playing, giving us the impression that this is not a very reputable place. Furthermore, if you look at the occupants inside the cages, you can see that they are not well kept. Raphtalia, the soon-to-be-bought slave, is herself on the verge of death, and the store owner could clearly care less, with him talking about how her last owner loved his torture, as if torturing another living creature is no big deal. All of this paints a very bleak and negative picture on slavery in this world. And when we go outside, we see a slave owner clearly mistreating and abusing his own slaves. Both of them are dressed in rags, while the owner himself is dressed in expensive-looking clothing. All the while, he is consistently using a loud and harsh tone when talking down to them. Hell, we even have this merchant here, who is one of Naofumi's few allies, say to him,
So no matter which way you slice it, slavery is never shown as either a good or valiant thing. Huh. Well, don't I look foolish now? Well, fine. I guess this one goes to you, detractors. Good job. Or, should I say, kind of. You see, while it may sound like Raphtalia is touting about the joys of slavery, that's not what she's really doing.
What she's actually doing is touting about how much of a good person Naofumi is, even though he doesn't always show it, and how it's ironic that being a slave is what helped her get better.
So how do I feel about people making a bigger deal out of this than it really is? It doesn't bother me.
In the end, though, I really don't care about the master-servant relationship between Raphtalia and Naofumi. What I'm more focused on is how the two act as complementary characters towards each other. Now, what I mean by this is that each character has traits and qualities that the other lacks, which helps to shine a light on the flaws that each character has, while at the same time making them feel more three-dimensional.
Don't misconstrue this as me saying that one of the characters is strong and the other is weak. It's not what I'm saying at all. Far from it, in fact. Truth is that both these characters are actually fairly strong. It's just that they choose to display that strength in very different ways, and it's because of those differences that allows them to be much more together than they ever would be apart.
As I said before, due to Naofumi's status as the shield hero, all he can do is defend, so he has to rely on someone like Raphtalia for offense in order to get anywhere in this world. And the way they pull this off is beautifully done, as they tend to work so well in sync that at times it almost looks like they're dancing on the battlefield. However, that is not the only way these complementary traits manifest. It's also very much present in their personalities. Naofumi, for the most part, is a very cold and cynical person who views the world as a harsh and unforgiving place, preferring to keep people at arm's length for his own protection, and after what happened, who could really blame him? While on the other hand, Raphtalia, for the most part, is a much more optimistic and cheerful person. She doesn't view everyone as an enemy and is willing to see the potential for good in people, and her whole reason for thinking this way is due to how well she was treated after being bought by Naofumi. It's those very traits, in fact, that allows Raphtalia to break through Naofumi's walls after the slave curse was lifted from her, and she re-swears her loyalty to him. It's actually a very touching and emotional scene. And it all ends with one final scene on top of what looks like a wall where he bites into a sandwich that Raphtalia made for him using leftover castle food. Now, doesn't it just seem very fitting that the food in which he realizes he can finally taste again is coming from her? What this indicates is that, at the very least, on some level, he is able to trust her.
And that's it, the end of the first arc. I'd say it's got a pretty strong start so far, with a world that is just believable enough, and I am at the very least excited to see what's going to be coming next. I will say the characters do come off a little one-note at first, with the only real development coming from Raphtalia and Naofumi. I'll also say the pacing is pretty spot on, with it never feeling like it's actually lagging behind, and you know you're onto something good when a show feels shorter than its length. I'd also say it's pretty decent so far, it's well thought out, and the characters are enjoyable to root for. I think that's it. So, I am starting to get hungry. So if you'll excuse me, I am going to go make a sandwich.